if we're all energetic, if we're in fact connected to the whole cosmos, and we have a soul, and we have spirit, and we are part of the community we're in an energetic way, then you can't really deal with therapy by just looking at behaviour, checking a story around father and mother, and bringing it to consciousness. You've got to go deeper. You've got to actually move into that very profound level where the energies within us are actually creating form, and those forms then begin to run us. So that's the work that we do here. It is we look below the issue, below the argument, to the form. And this is where voice dialogue and Sandplay and processing is so valuable, that you actually move below anything you know at all, to an unknown area where it's all new, it's all uncertain, and discovery. And my goodness. So that's what I'm doing. It's full of surprise and excitement. You may cry, you may get angry. That's all part of the process. What matters is that you've unearthed your Buddha.
Sandplay is probably one of my most favourite ways of working with people. The reason being is that it actually shows the core of what's going on within the person. It's very profound in a sense that it actually puts the subconscious on display. And so it's the parts that we actually hide from ourselves that actually get revealed again. And when we can actually see that in the sand, we can then understand exactly what's been occurring in our lives.
If you dream, you have all sorts of images and all sorts of stories, and then you wake up and you forget half of it, and you don't really see the relationship between things. Sand plays like a dream. It comes out of the same place in the unconscious. It arises out of some place that we don't know. Sandplay is about connection. It's about what Jung called synchronicity. It's about why it is when you pick a card out of a special deck, it has a special meaning for you. It's because every single thing in the world, every event, every person, everything that's going on is connected to everything else.
Okay, I want to tell you about a Sandplay that was what I consider was very profound. And it's about a young man of 43 who had skin cancer. He came to me because he really wanted to live. Just to fill you in on the background, when he was 19, his father died, and he was the youngest of 8 children. 18 months prior to coming to see me, his mother had died. He had made a decision at 19 that he would stay for the rest of his life and look after his mother. So he never went and got married. He never went on holidays, in a sense. In a way, he kept the family together. So the loss of his mother was quite huge. Quite often in Sandplay, we actually don't name the pieces. So when I looked at what he had created, I said to him, I'd like you to be this one here. And what he said, this is the good man. Immediately when he said this was the good man, I knew instantly that he had taken on this as his persona in life. He was the good man. And he was so good that this decision of staying with his mother exemplified this. And so being his mother dying 18 months earlier, in a sense he was a bit lost without her. After we'd sort of worked with this being the good man and how he'd done that throughout his life, I said to him, and what do you feel about this piece? And all of a sudden his whole expression changed. He went, oh, and a shock came over his face, and he looked at me in the eyes with tears and he said, that's my soul and it's going home. Immediately he saw that, he realised that he was actually dying, that his purpose in life had actually been fulfilled as the good man. And having done that, he didn't know what else to do with himself. And I just held him for a while and the tears came out. And at the end of the session, he thanked me profusely and then he said, thank you so much. And he died 8 weeks later. And part of my thing that I went through, I thought, well, why? You know, he's only 43, and why did he die and so young? And I sort of went through a whole thing in my life. And it wasn't until about a year later that it really fell into my head that the soul really has its own journey in life, and that the soul had fulfilled its purpose, and that the soul was actually on its way home. It was very profound because it really taught me that the soul really does have its own journey, and the personality also has its, and that he really had fulfilled his purpose. And so I don't know any other way, that any other modality that would have shown this so clearly and so profoundly. And not only that, he died very peacefully because he had accepted his death.
The deepest levels of our unconscious, which is where we operate from, these are hidden. They're buried in the course of our development. But they want to be known. The psyche wants to be known. More than anything else, the psyche wishes to be known. And yet it remains hidden. Now it's the sandplay that brings this up to the surface. Like you get a 4-year-old child. He'll come and he'll play in the sand here, and he'll take pieces which he'll bury, and he wants you to find them. He wants you to go in there and locate what he's buried. And this is exactly what the psyche does through the whole of our lives. But for the adult, it's hidden. Now, sandplay exposes it perfectly. And the analysis of the sandplay helps the mind, but at a very much deeper level, the sandplay helps the psyche itself to heal itself.
It's a sandplay called The Workers, and you look, it's very much a boys' sandplay. Girls don't get into such. Boys, particularly young boys, are passionate about cars. He's put a bridge in, and a bridge is a very important symbol. It usually is a suggestion of linking two sides. He has put a tow truck towing away a broken down car. Symbolically, he knows something needs to be mended in him. Then he's got big buildings here, work buildings, a repair shop for mending cars, so probably it's on its way there. And this is a factory. They are wrong places, he's now discovered. They're about by these vehicles to be moved to their right places. Meanwhile, over here, a little boy is absorbed in cranes that are getting to work to dig into that hill, and they're going to bring out these two pieces that were hidden by him. This one is, if you see, it's like a skeleton warrior leader, and this is another warrior. They're the fighters in him. And possibly for him, bold and terrifying fighters have been buried there in the sand, and they're now going to come up and be owned by him, seen by him, put out into the world, not reacted from unconsciously like he's been doing with his ADD.
When you're very young, you're establishing the structures for your life and trying to make sense out of things. And the mind is not very helpful for this. The discriminating mind, the clearly thinking, logical mind that we're used to having as adults, isn't really formed in the child until they are 6 or 7 or 8. The real formations that made us have occurred by then. By then we are who we're going to be, unless later traumas distort that in one way or another. And so that's where we need to work, is at the early inner child level. Not the 13-year-old or the 15-year-old, but the 2-year-old and the 3-year-old. Pre-verbal. Sandplay is perfect because it provides the pre-verbal story. There's no words in it until we're actually working with the story. Voice dialogue is useful because it actually talks to the different energies that have been created out of that pre-verbal level.
I begin by talking with them just for a few minutes, and I'm listening all the time to the voice that speaks back to me as I check out what's been going on for them lately, or what's troubling them in their life, or what are they very interested in exploring. And then after a minute or so, I hear a particular voice I can recognise, and I'll suggest to them they move from their major position, which we'll call their ego, and it's their choice. They move to the left or the right. Once they're settled, then I speak to them, and at that point they're in a quite sensitive energy, because they're like a part of the ego, a slice of it. They're pure, say, sadness, or curiosity, or pleasingness, whatever energy has come up. And they will talk of the ego as if they're another person. They'll look over and they'll sometimes say, that, we'll say, Mary's neglecting me. She really doesn't like me. I feel pretty sad about that. I'm here for her. I'm really looking after her, but she's not there for me. And later, when they've talked a little, we'll get them to move back to sit with Mary. And Mary on her side will have heard this part of her. It's a whole new, amazing experience. And sometimes they say, quite right too, I don't like that voice. I don't want it in my life. But the thing is, as long as we're at war with a voice in us, there's no dissolving of the tension. Once we become conscious, once we become more balanced and sensitive to this aspect of the work, then we're open to our higher consciousness towards the transpersonal. Then we can start hearing it and listening to it. Otherwise, it's something we cannot even begin to understand. And that's why we begin this work on this level of the personal level of ourselves, loosen us up, expand us, make us ready for the unknown, make us ready to get beyond ourselves.
Sandplay and voice dialogue lead in our work to the deepest and most inspiring work that we do, which we call processing. It's incredibly simple. One just simply sits on a pillow with us nearby, breathes in, and begins to search inside. What makes this very different is that we move into a space which is very like what the meditators will call a no-mind space, a no-thought space. We actually open our mind totally to the person and let go any egoic thing that we might have in us at that time. And it's out of there that we actually feel what is going on in an intuitive way with the client. And our energy supports the client just to move a little bit deeper into themselves. And they will then discover their soul. They'll discover their soul's journey. It's the most beautiful experience to be with somebody as they meet their soul, especially when it's for the first time. There's such a softness, a fullness, such an ecstasy that comes through at that moment. It's just inspiring. Sometimes people will go back into past lives, sometimes they'll go back to the womb, sometimes into the birth process, sometimes into events between their siblings, but in all of them they're reaching into levels of understanding of themselves like they have never experienced before, because they've hidden it. They've hidden it because in some way or other it was hurtful, painful in the way of their lives. By actually exposing this, helping them to expose it to themselves, what we're aiding them to do is become conscious. And when you're conscious as an adult about anything, no matter how painful it might have been when you were a little child, you can deal with it easily and live with it and work with it. And you don't have to let it run your life. And particularly with the work on soul. It's soul that when it comes down into this lifetime and creates us in the womb in the way we are, that actually forms the whole relationship of our growth and our path through life. Other people will want to influence that, change it, family members, all of that sort of thing that goes on, that will alter the soul's journey. Once we come back to the soul's journey, we know our destiny, we know our purpose, and we find it very easy to do whatever we need to do.
As I was working on myself, I realised that while I was witnessing other people being worked on, that I was getting messages and that through, that I actually could see what was going on within the person. And I remember I'd run up to John and I'd say to him, "Oh, I saw this and I saw that." And one day he said to me, "Well, okay, you sit here and you work with me." And so what's happened is we've actually become a team in what we call energetic processing. So I actually support the client energetically to go to where they actually need to go to, while John, he puts the form around it. So I'll actually see what's sitting deeply within the client, and I will mention to him, and he'll actually put the form around it so the client can actually go down to those deep levels within themselves. It gives you a sense of your beingness, of your connectedness to everything. You know then that you actually don't have to go externally out to look for who you are. You actually know who you are on every level. And you can walk from that space within yourself out into the world.
The idea of the crucible is a very old medieval term from alchemy, that you place things into a vessel and you heat the vessel, and whatever's in it melts and changes and transforms. And that's what this place is. It actually enfolds everybody who comes here, so they feel very safe and looked after just by the land itself, without us having to do anything. Work with soul and work with the energetic bodies. You can go so deeply that the easiness of life doesn't have to be learnt. It just is. This is the work we deal with. This is our purpose here, is to support people to be so true, so clear, so centered in themselves, that whatever comes to them in life, they can handle without disintegrating. On the opposite, to handle in such a way that they turn every event into something very creative and very positive.